Tonight, something will happen to you, not in the outside world, not in the noise of society, not in the gaze of anyone else, but inside of you. There will be a moment, perhaps quiet, maybe even uncomfortable. A thought will return that you've been avoiding. A feeling will rise that you kept pushing down. A memory you never resolved may reappear in a dream, and you will be given a choice to ignore it again or finally listen. Tonight, your unconscious will attempt to speak. It will not ask for permission, and it will not wait for a perfect moment. It has waited long enough. It has watched you smile when something hurt. It has watched you agree when your whole being wanted to say no. It has stayed silent every time you convinced yourself that discomfort was normal, that confusion was temporary, that the heaviness in your chest was just stress and not a message. But tonight, it will try again, not to disturb you, but to awaken you. You may feel it first as a simple thought, something so ordinary that you might dismiss it. A question might arise, one you haven't wanted to ask. A realization might whisper itself in the back of your mind, challenging who you've been pretending to be. There is nothing louder than a truth you are finally ready to hear. It does not need sound. It needs only your awareness. Perhaps you will lie down to rest, but your mind will not rest with you. You will feel something unsettled, something unfinished, something that wants to come forward. This is how the unconscious speaks. Not with words, not with logic, but with tension, with dreams, with impulses you can't explain. It has its own language, and tonight, you will feel it more clearly. You may remember someone you haven't thought about in years. You may feel anger you never expressed, or sadness you never faced. You may suddenly think of a dream you once had, something you believed you could be before life taught you to play small. The unconscious does not forget what you throw away, stores the things you were not brave enough to feel, and when the right moment comes, it pushes them toward the surface like a truth rising back to claim its place. Tonight might not bring peace at first. It might bring discomfort, not because something is wrong, but because something wants to be understood. Every emotion you suppress keeps knocking until you acknowledge it. Every memory you avoid keeps returning until you accept it. You cannot silence what was meant to transform you. Ignoring your own truth only delays your becoming. Many people run from themselves, thinking they are escaping the problem. But what they are really running from is their own potential. They do anything to stay distracted so they don't have to listen. They bury themselves in routine, in relationships, in noise, in goals that don't come from the heart. And then they wonder why they feel empty even when life looks full. The unconscious is not the enemy of your comfort. It is the source of your alignment. It calls you back to what is real. Tonight, something inside you may challenge the identity you've grown comfortable wearing. You may feel a conflict between who you are and who you've pretended to be. You may sense that a decision you've been delaying will no longer wait. When the unconscious speaks, it does not want argument. It wants recognition. It wants you to stop lying to yourself. You cannot build a meaningful life on top of denial. You cannot grow from a version of yourself that avoids its own truth. This inner voice may present itself through a dream. Dreams are not fantasy, they are mirrors. They show us the emotions we refuse to see when we are awake. They show us our desires without apology. They show us our fears without disguise. You might dream something strange, something symbolic, something you don't fully understand, but you will feel the message. You will sense its relevance. Dreams speak in feelings, not logic. You will know what they mean in your body before you understand them in your mind. And if you pay attention tonight, you may finally notice that what you have been calling confusion has always been clarity. You just weren't ready to accept it. The unconscious never forces you to change. It simply keeps reminding you of who you are meant to become. If you ignore it, you suffer. If you listen, you evolve. So tonight, let whatever rises come without resistance. Don't judge it. Don't fight it. Don't try to escape it. Let the truth speak. Let the emotion breathe. Let the memory unfold. Whatever shows up is not an interruption, it is guidance. It is the part of you that knows what you need even when you don't want to know it. The unconscious speaks only when you are ready to hear it. Tonight, you are ready. What you fear the most is not trying to destroy you, it is trying to reach you. Fear is not a wall that blocks your path. It is a doorway you have not yet learned to walk through. The things that make your heart tighten, the choices you avoid, the truths you refuse to speak, they are not accidents. They are invitations, messages, signs that something within you is asking to be understood. Most people believe fear means stop. They think fear is a warning to turn back, to stay safe, to repeat old patterns. But fear often appears when you are approaching a truth, when you are close to stepping out of who you used to be. Fear arrives when you are near the threshold of your own evolution. If it were meant to protect you from danger, it would leave you at peace when you are stuck and restless. But notice how fear rarely comes when you stay in a life that is too small for you. It comes when you consider changing it. The greatest discomfort in life does not come from pain itself. It comes from resisting pain. Running from a truth is far more exhausting than facing it. Hiding from your own desires drains more energy than pursuing them. You can endure loneliness, heartbreak, uncertainty, but what you cannot endure is pretending you don't feel what you feel. That is the real suffering, pretending. You may think the fear is telling you something terrible will happen if you change. But what if the real warning is that something terrible will happen if you don't? What if the fear is not saying run away, but look closer? There is always a message behind fear, a purpose behind its presence. It reveals what your heart has been trying to say, what your life has been urging you to confront. Fear points to what matters. Think of the moments that shaped your life. None of them were comfortable. None were painless, but they were necessary. They pushed you into a shape you would have never grown into willingly. Fear is the beginning of transformation. When you feel it, something is being asked of you, a courage you haven't used yet, a decision you've been avoiding, a boundary you've never enforced, a dream you've been too afraid to pursue because you secretly know it matters more than anything else. Your greatest fear is often a reflection of your greatest desire. You fear failure because you truly want to succeed. You fear heartbreak because you truly want to love. You fear change because you know you are meant for more. If you didn't care deeply, you wouldn't fear at all. Fear exposes what you long for. It shows you what you cannot live without. And yet, people become prisoners of their own protection. They barricade themselves behind excuses, busy routines, relationships that demand less than they can give, and dreams they postpone until the right time. They choose comfort over truth, even though comfort without honesty turns into heaviness. They choose safety over growth, even though the safest place is often the one killing their spirit slowly. They choose to remain stuck, hoping life will reward their patience when life is actually waiting for their participation. Fear does not disappear when you ignore it. It grows quieter, deeper, heavier. It turns into anxiety, confusion, resentment. It spreads into every part of your life until everything feels uncertain. But the moment you face fear, honestly, it begins to dissolve. It loses its sharpness. It reveals its message. To face fear is not to become fearless. It is to become conscious. It is to see that fear is a teacher, not a threat. It is the psyche showing you where healing wants to happen, where truth wants to emerge, where growth is no longer optional. When you stop running from fear, you stop running from yourself. And when you stop running from yourself, life finally becomes clear. Clarity does not come from thinking, it comes from honesty. Transformation does not come from fighting fear, it comes from understanding it. The fear you feel tonight is not warning you of danger, it is calling you toward your own transformation. Your mind never whispers without meaning. Every thought that lingers, every emotion that rises unexpectedly, every image that flashes in your imagination, none of them are accidents. They are symbols, fragments of a message that your inner world is trying to deliver to you. Most people ignore these signals because they expect clarity to arrive in a loud voice, in a perfect sentence, in a logical explanation. But the mind rarely speaks in logic. It speaks in feelings, in tension, in intuition, in the quiet nudges you brush aside as nothing. Think about those sudden moments when you feel uneasy around someone, even though they haven't done anything wrong. That uneasiness is not randomness. It is your mind remembering what your conscious self refuses to recognize. It has studied patterns long before you became aware of them. It knows who your spirit can trust and who your spirit must protect itself from. Yet, you deny this knowledge because you want proof, you want reason. But the mind gives truth before it gives reason. By the time the reason becomes visible, the truth was already spoken inside you. You might experience discomfort when you consider a choice, a job, a relationship, a lifestyle, and you tell yourself you're overthinking, that you should ignore it, that feelings are irrational. But what if those feelings are the most intelligent part of you? What if they are the only honest voices in a life filled with noise? The mind is not confused, it is communicating. Confusion is what happens when you ignore what you already know. You call it uncertainty because you do not like the truth that is being offered. Pain itself is a symbol. It shows you where you are out of alignment. Sadness is a message that something important has been neglected. Anger reveals where your boundaries have been violated. Anxiety is what happens when your heart knows you're betraying yourself. These emotions are not weaknesses, they are signals. They are not problems to suppress, they are instruction. If you silence them, you lose the guidance you were meant to follow. Even memories are symbolic. The ones that repeatedly return for a reason. A conversation that haunts you, a moment you replay in your mind, something you wish you had said. It doesn't come back because it wants to hurt you again. It comes back because a part of you is still waiting to learn from it. It is unfinished, unresolved, unaccepted. Your mind will not let it rest until you do. And then there are dreams. Dreams do not lie. They may confuse you, they may disguise themselves in unusual imagery, but they never mislead you. They express truths you are too conscious to admit. They bring forward desires that your waking self is too afraid to pursue. They bring back memories you thought you forgot. They show you pain you pretend does not exist. Dreams are the purest form of self-communication because they have no filter. Nothing is censored. Nothing is softened. In dreams, your mind speaks without fear of being ignored. Symbols are everywhere in your inner world. A sudden burst of motivation means something in your life is ready to move forward. A feeling of being drained when you enter a certain place or speak to a certain person means something that is working against you. A desire that refuses to die even after months or years is not a fantasy. It is a direction. Your mind does not keep what is meaningless. It does not obsess over what does not matter. It only repeats what is connected to your growth. You do not need to decode every message instantly. You do not need to pressure yourself to understand everything at once. Awareness is enough. Listening is enough. Paying attention is enough. With time, symbols reveal themselves naturally. What was once confusing becomes clear. What once frightened you becomes familiar. What once felt painful becomes purposeful. The greatest mistake you can make is to numb your emotions and ignore your intuition, believing that clarity will come later. Clarity is already here, whispering through discomfort, flickering through imagination, returning through memory, appearing in dreams, pressing against the walls of your denial. It has already spoken. It is waiting for you to listen. Your mind is not trying to confuse you. It is trying to free you. Transformation rarely begins with a plan. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It doesn't need your confidence, and it doesn't ask for the perfect moment. It starts the moment you become aware. Awareness itself is the beginning of change, not action, not strategy, not discipline. Awareness. Once you truly see something within yourself, you cannot unsee it. You cannot pretend you don't know. You can delay. You can resist, you can argue with it, but you cannot go back to who you were before you noticed. People often think they need to decide before they transform. They believe they need to take a bold step, make a big announcement, or change their whole lifestyle instantly. But transformation begins long before any of that. It begins when you look at your own patterns honestly for the first time. When you realize that a certain relationship is draining your spirit. When you recognize that the life you're living does not match what you feel inside. When you suddenly understand that the dream you abandoned is still calling you. That is transformation. Awareness is movement. Awareness shifts the ground beneath your choices even if you haven't acted on them yet. Most of what holds you back is not lack of ability. It is lack of honesty with yourself. You can't choose differently if you pretend nothing is wrong. You can't grow if you keep denying what you feel. The moment you acknowledge the truth, you start to change, even if your life looks the same on the outside. Awareness slowly reshapes your priorities. It alters what you tolerate. It reveals what you truly want. You may not act immediately, but the internal shift has already begun. And eventually, your actions follow what your mind now knows. You may feel like nothing is happening because there is no dramatic shift, no sudden breakthrough. But inner change is subtle, patient, and powerful. It doesn't need spectacle. The seed doesn't make noise when it starts to grow roots, yet everything in its future depends on what happens beneath the surface. There are decisions forming inside you that you haven't fully realized yet. There are boundaries being prepared, desires gaining clarity, truths gathering strength. You don't need to force the process. Awareness guides it naturally. Life isn't asking you to solve everything tonight. It's not asking you to take immediate action. It's asking you to notice, to simply observe the truth without pushing it away, to let the discomfort rise without numbing it, to watch your dreams return without dismissing them. The mind is not demanding action, it is requesting attention. That is the foundation of transformation. When you try to force change too quickly out of fear or impatience, you end up repeating the same patterns in a different form. You choose a new partner with the same emotional dynamic, a new job that repeats the same emptiness, a new routine that carries the same avoidance. You can't escape a pattern by moving faster. You escape it by becoming aware of it. When you see your patterns clearly, the choices that once trapped you lose their power. You become unable to ignore what no longer aligns with your truth. There is strength in allowing the truth to integrate before you act on it. There is wisdom in letting new awareness settle into your body. You don't need to rush toward change. You need to listen to the change already happening inside you. Awareness will tell you when it is time. It will make certain choices feel impossible to continue. It will make honesty more compelling than comfort. It will make growth more necessary than approval. When that moment comes, you won't need motivation. You will simply be unable to live in contradiction anymore. Tonight is not about doing. It is about noticing, about allowing your inner world to speak without interruption. Let the truth rise without judging it. Let the emotion move without suppressing it. Let the awareness unfold without rushing toward an answer. You don't need to force transformation. It is happening already. You just need to witness it. Awareness is the beginning of becoming. A new version of you is already forming, even if you haven't made a single change yet. Something in you is shifting, preparing, stretching beyond the identity you've held onto for years. You may not fully understand it, but you can feel it. The quiet discomfort with what once felt normal, the growing distance from what you used to tolerate, the sudden pull towards something you can't explain. This isn't confusion, this is emergence. You are not losing yourself, you are outgrowing who you no longer are. Growth does not always appear as strength. Sometimes it feels like dissatisfaction, fatigue, impatience, sadness. You might feel disconnected from your old life, yet unsure where the new one begins. You might feel irritated with patterns you once accepted, overwhelmed by emotions you used to ignore, restless in environments that once felt comfortable. This is not failure. This is transformation wearing the disguise of discomfort. When your spirit is preparing for a larger life, the smaller one becomes unbearable. You don't have to plan the person you are becoming. You don't have to design your next chapter with perfect clarity. You don't need a roadmap to evolve. Becoming happens naturally. It happens in the background of your everyday existence. It happens when you tell the truth you used to swallow. It happens when you admit to yourself what you truly want. It happens each time you stop pretending. Every honest thought is a step toward your future. Every boundary you consider is the beginning of a new identity. Every moment of awareness is a seed breaking open. You might believe you need courage before you can change, but courage doesn't show up before transformation. Courage is created through transformation. You become brave not by deciding to be different, but by no longer being able to live in contradiction. There comes a point when staying the same becomes more painful than growing. There comes a night when you finally hear yourself clearly enough to stop running. That is when the new version of you steps forward, not because you forced it, but because it could no longer remain hidden. This new version is not a stranger. It's the part of you that has been waiting. The part you silenced to keep peace with others. The part you buried to fit into expectations. The part you doubted because it didn't match what others wanted from you. It has been patient. It has been quiet. But now it wants to live. It wants to speak. It wants to choose, to express, to experience the life you once believed was too big for you. And here is the truth. You don't need to know how to become it. You only need to stop denying it. The moment you stop betraying yourself, the new version begins to lead. You don't have to force your life to change. It will change because you can no longer lie to yourself. People will shift around you. Opportunities will appear. Relationships will fall away. Desires will grow stronger. Your world reconfigures itself around who you are becoming. At first, this might feel destabilizing. You might grieve old versions of yourself. You might cling to routines, relationships, or identities that are fading. You might try to return to what used to work, only to find it no longer does. That is the sign that you are being pulled forward. You are not meant to return to environments that require your silence. You are not meant to stay in roles that demand your shrinking. You are not meant to compromise your inner truth for outer approval. The new version of you refuses to live in that cage. This emergence does not ask for dramatic action. It asks for honesty. It asks for attention. It asks for alignment with what you already know. There is a life that matches your inner world, and it is waiting for you. You do not have to chase it. You will grow into it. Just as a seed is shaped by the tree it contains, you are being shaped by the future you carry within you. You cannot stay small forever. Because something inside you has already expanded, you are not becoming someone else. You are finally becoming yourself.